It is scary how many people still get fonts wrong. It's been about 4 years since I've been creating content on design, and I've still realized that a lot of people they don't understand the basics of font selection. In this video, I want to talk to you about how to get your font design right. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is font styles. There are a lot of different variations of how fonts can be created or generated or categorized. If you check on thefont.com, you will see multiple variations of how these fonts can be categorized. And similarly, on the font, Creative Cloud, or whatever other application that you use to download fonts from. Now, the thing is, there are approximately 5 major buckets. Let's talk about them. The first is serif fonts. You've probably heard about it. These are the fonts that have these small indexes at the end. You see these over here. These small lines or strokes, they have a small addition in terms of increasing the efficiency of reading content, and especially on a printed paper. These lines are expected to guide you towards the next one very easily. Well, the next one is sans serif fonts. Very similar to serif, but sans serif. What does sans mean? Sans means without. So that's exactly what these fonts are. These fonts are exactly what serif fonts look like, but they don't have these small nudges towards the end. They are easy to display on screens, and that is why a lot of digital mediums have now shifted to using sans serif fonts. They are often even neater because the contrast ratio is very easily depicted with not small pixels here and there. They are also used heavily in digital devices because those absence of small pixels make them easy to put in on screens without loss of contrast. The next ones are called script fonts. Now these are replicas of how you and I write, a very scriptish calligraphic style of writing with pen and paper. Now the thing is, these fonts are expected to be slightly more elegant and they're slightly more cursive in nature because they are supposed to present a human side of everything. So when I say human side, they want to bring in emotions more deeply. So that's when we use cursive or script fonts. Then there are display fonts. These fonts have been created specifically for display, which means big, bold and loud. Fonts like this are used in headings, are used in display boards, hoardings and everywhere else where the announcement of a single set of words is way more important than the context or the content of it. That's why they are supposed to be displayed, right? And lastly, there are monospaced fonts. Every coding screen that you see has monospaced fonts because these fonts are supposed to be easier to read because a lot of text is there which has breaks and stuff like that. But you'd want to make sure that the entire structure of the font or the entire structure of the text is something that is easy to read on multiple types of devices, even devices which do not have great displays. So for those reasons, these monospaced fonts are easy to print and replicate on different types of devices. Great. Now this out of the park, we need to understand where to use what sort of fonts. So if you're creating a formal document, I wouldn't recommend you that you go for a display font or a cursive font. A very formal document needs text to be readable very easily, right? And that's why you should definitely use either a sans serif or a serif font. Now, depending on what sort of style and brand that you'd want to stick close to. Then again, if you have a lot of poster design, in those cases you can have probably the main text in a display font, but make sure to have the rest of the text in an easy to read font, right? So for posters or casual invitations, or probably for something which is supposed to be shared internally, which is not supposed to be as formal, it has to go to your boss or your boss's boss, can have a slightly easy on the eye note. And that is why you can probably go with display or script fonts. Again, this is no place for monospaced fonts yet. It's only supposed to be used when you are coding or typing. Now, in both of these cases, there was one focus. The focus is on readability, right? The thing is, a lot of places where designers are going wrong with fonts is because their font selection or font stylization makes the content not readable. Or even if it is readable, it's probably not in the best of manners where it could have been a better font selection choice. So let's talk about readability. The thing is, For readability, think of it in two different sections. One is, let's say if you're creating a large body of content. For that content, you want the text to be easy on the eyes and should be quickly graspable. And then there is probably a header or a title that you might want to add. Now, this is in case of a text body. Now, if you're thinking of a graphic design where probably a EDM poster, in those cases, you can have the large body, which is the main title or the call to action, can have a display font. For more information, you can go for a simpler font, which is like a serif or a sans serif font. Again, sans serif would probably work great if you're going for digital invitations. Now, moving forward, you'd want to see that the body of content that you're also writing has legitimate space. It is enough. It has a lot of justification. It does not have a lot of random gaps in between, just to make sure that the structure of the content looks right. And similarly, for display fonts or the title that you're choosing, make sure that there is enough contrast. If you use indigo color on a blue background or a purple background, that might be a wrong choice. If you really have to use it, you probably have to introduce a barrier in between, or probably like a text box of a slightly different color. And the color that I can think of is a complementary color of blue, which is yellow. So if you have to use blue on blue, introduce a yellow plate in between. The bottom line being, you need to make sure that the text is readable on all different parts of the poster. Now, just like contrast in color selection, you can also have contrast in your font selection. What I do personally is, when I'm creating a particular style document, I want to lock in the fonts early on. For font selection, I might just go up multiplying or mixing different types of fonts. So probably a serif font with a non-serif or a sans serif font looks great. In certain cases, you might want to go for a display, but when I'm working for a large content or a large piece of body, I go for something like this. And for this, the first step that I do is font selection. And for that, I use a couple of websites like this. So I use monotype.com or fontpair.com or fontshare.com. So these are one of those three websites that you can also use to do a font choosing. Now, what does happen on these websites? Now, these websites have very specific style guides. They have variations in terms of what the header text can be and what the body text can be. For instance, look at this. The title over here is Janssen Text Roman, the header, and the main text is written in Devoid font. Now, these are two different fonts. Of course, you'll be able to find these fonts somewhere or the other. Similarly, the other one over here is Essence, and the text has been written in Arabuto. Now, this is another different variation. Now, what I'm going for over here is a very specific title which looks big, bold, and easy to read as well. And then the text in the body should have a sans serif style. We can also do this. We can have the title of the body in sans serif font and the text or the body, the main body over here, in a serif font. That's also readable. But I would prefer doing that if I'm going for a print design. For everything digital, I prefer it in this style. Now, the third one is slightly more creative. Now, this one, the main font in the title is called Memphis, and the text over here is called FF Mark. What goes in selection of these different font pairings? Why not use Devoid with Janssen Text Roman? You need to see how the curvature of the text is, how the different stylization of the text is, what the spacing of the different fonts are. A lot of different fonts have different spacing for the letter O versus the letter L. I'm not talking about monospace, but even with normal letters, there could be a nice different spacing mechanism. So you need to keep all of those things in mind and then select something that appeals to you. Now, here's the good part about design. If the design looks good, you will like it. If you will like it, your audience might like it, your people who are surrounding you might like it, and in case they are better designers than you, then they might have slightly different opinion, but everything that's easy on your eyes would be easy on their eyes too. Of course, there might be differences in terms of context and the design that goes, but what you need to understand is you need to go through a lot of different designs and select one that works for you the best. Well, okay. Now, that being done out of place, Let's quickly have a look at these. These are different posters and how the typography have been used over here. These are good posters, and I will show a variation of these posters as well, where similar things will not work, right? So the first poster over here, bold and minimalist. Now this poster is supposed to be for an art exhibition. Now you can see that this is an abstract painting. The idea is supposed to be minimalist, and that's why they have used a sans serif fonts throughout, which sits with the minimalist theme. Also look at the uniform color and ample of white space that is used to create a very clean and minimalist look. If we had replaced the sans serif font with a display font like this, it might not have worked as well. Here's the other poster. Now this is for a EDM party, right? You can see that the main text Saturday party is written in big bold in the center. You can see that a sans serif font grabs that attention. The yellow color over here is contrasting with everything else on the screen, and that's why it gains a lot of attention. Then the script font for the party adds a playful touch to the entire thing, because again, I was talking about emotions earlier. This is that. The clean sans serif fonts on the sides make everything readable, right? That's necessary, and at the same time there is a high contrast between the dark text and the bright background. If we had to replace the text something like this, you can see why it doesn't work. Now moving on, this is Show Your Talent. It's a virtual online event, and for that the very simple thing has been done to use the color pieces from the elements in the design in the text as well. So the show has an orange tinge. You can also see that the warm colors and balanced layout, which gives enough space for the text and the design to be separated with different background pieces. The font selection is okay. I'm not a fan of the font selection over here, but the idea over here being conveyed is that the major text is written in a display font, and the supporting text has been written in a sans serif font, which is again easy to read. And here's the last one. Now this is a very specific poster. It has a lot of content, and for this content the design statement has been done in such a way that the entire thing has been written in sans serif. In certain cases, which is the bottom www.filmmaker.com or the 7 arts, there have been slight differences made in terms of italics or bold, and then of course there are different sort of sizes, but the entire text has been written in sans serif font. The bold font in the center conveys professionalism, doesn't it? And the dark colors again adds to the entire sophisticated look. If I had to change this sophisticated look into something that does not work, it will probably look something like this. Great, isn't this nice? Now, I've covered a lot about the basics of font selection. If we were to talk about more pieces in this, I would probably talk about the different aspects of font itself, which is leading, kerning, and stuff like that. Right? Now these are very technical pieces. I do have a course which is dedicated entirely to this. Now check out this link over here, which is a Photoshop course, and even an Illustrator course that I've created which has similar ideas. Now the thing is, these courses, they also have a 25% discount in case you are a Design Hub subscriber. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button and avail that nice discount. The coupon code is called Design Hub Sub, which is Design Hub subscriber, and you get a 25% off. So go ahead, try that out. In the meantime, I'll also be creating more content on design. So make sure to like this video and comment on what you'd want to see more of. And then I will see you in another video.